We're back with Carole Hagan here at Bend, Oregon. And Carole, what do you have to say for us today?
Well, I thought I'd talk about placentas. And everybody had one. If you look at your belly button, it was hooked on there. And when we get born, it comes out, and a lot of people just dump them. They're also used for research, and sometimes people freeze them, and some people cook them. So they have a lot of uses. In the African countries, they powder them and make little medicine things out of them for women to take afterward to build them back up again. So placentas are sometimes ignored, but they're pretty important. And I have some fun placenta stories. One is that I used to bring really unique looking placentas, like the cord was hooked in a different way, or there was a funny shape to it. So I would rinse it off, put it on a cookie sheet, put it in my freezer. And I had 7 kids, and the boys were always hungry, and sometimes they'd look under there and think it was a pizza. And once or twice they tried to cook it. Another time I had a guy who was into cooking them, and he brought over some spaghetti sauce made with placenta, and my boys were always terrified that I would serve them placenta, so they asked me, is this placenta, Mom? Well, the other thing is that when I was teaching at the school that my kids went to, it was an alternative school within the public system, and it was for like 1st through 5th and 6th through 8th. I decided to save a bunch of placentas. This was before the HIV problem, and I brought them in, and I gave all the kids gloves, and we looked at the placenta and looked at the water bag, which comes up over the placenta, and the kids were just fascinated by it, and they put their gloves in it, and they made prints on papers. And then one little boy took the edge of the water bag and he felt it like this, and he said, "This feels like the edge of my blanket." And then I realized that all my kids had had blankets with a little bit of satin around the edge, and they used to rub it that way, so it must be from way inside the womb. Anyway, placentas are pretty interesting, so I used to save them to take them to the midwife school at San Francisco General Hospital, because some of them that I had at home, like one was a filamentous insertion, which means that the cord came down and there's 3 vessels in the cord, 2 veins and 1 aorta, and they went, or 1 artery, and they went in with no covering on them. So that was very dangerous, and we didn't know it beforehand because it wasn't held together by like the fascia around it. But so I brought that in and we studied those. Anyway, placentas to me are very interesting. And I've eaten them. They taste a little bit like liver and heart mixed together, but I am not addicted and probably never need to eat another one. So that's just what I wanted to tell you about placentas.
So you're saying, Carole, that guys have placentas too?
Oh yeah, well they do when they're born.
When they're born, okay,
yeah,
got it.
Everybody has one. Nobody has a placenta that isn't pregnant and giving birth, but the baby comes with a placenta. And one of the dangers is if the placenta gets in front of the baby, you can't deliver that baby vaginally, because the placenta is what provides the oxygen and blood to the baby, and then that will come out, and then if the baby doesn't come immediately, the baby will suffocate. So it's important. Our placentas are really important. They're sort of laid against the wall of the uterus, which is a round thing like this, and then the cord comes off of it to the baby, and it's like Velcro kind of, and so little by little it peels off as the placenta, as the uterus gets smaller, pushes it off, and that's how it comes out.
Does it hurt?
No, it feels kind of good, kind of gushy. And then you get a few contractions as it comes out, but basically it's pretty neat. And if it doesn't tighten up good on it, that whole area where it was hooked is like a wound, so you could bleed too much. So it's important to get the uterus to get smaller and tighter once the placenta comes out. And losing your placenta means that you end up making milk, because that's the signal to the body to turn your colostrum in your breast into milk. So that happens about 3 days after, but it's a process, it's ongoing. Anyway, I think placentas are very important to all of us, but we just don't realize it. So here's to paying homage to our placentas.
Good. Here's to placentas.
Yes.
Well, tune in next week for another educational video from Carole Hagan.
I'll find something to see.